The courtroom fell silent when he walked in. No cameras, no press, just a man in a gray suit with shaking hands and decades of secrets buried deep behind his eyes. The judge asked him to state his name for the record, and he hesitated not because he forgot it, but because he knew. Once he said it, there was no turning back. "My name is Marcus Kane," he finally whispered, "and I used to work for Sean Combs for 9 years. That name might not mean much to the public. But in the halls of power, in the backrooms of music empires, and behind the mirrored walls of Beverly Hills mansions, Marcus was the man who saw everything." And now, in a sealed deposition just leaked to federal investigators and quietly shared among journalists, Marcus has finally spoken, under oath. What he reveals is not just damaging, it's career-ending, possibly criminal, and some say, inescapably evil. Because what Marcus saw wasn't just celebrity excess. It wasn't just the champagne, the parties, the million-dollar suits, or the endless VIP guests. It was what happened after the parties ended. He talks about rooms without windows, guests who never gave last names, and women, many of them young, who arrived through underground garages and left without shoes or phones or memory of what happened inside. "I used to stand outside the red door," he said. "They told me never to ask questions, just hold the line, let the music drown it all out." What is the red door? It's mentioned multiple times in the 87-page deposition, described as a soundproof chamber inside a hidden wing of a Holmby Hills mansion once rented under a shell corporation. According to Marcus, what happened behind that door was so disturbing that even other staff refused to go near it. He claims there were nights when guests would scream and no one flinched. Nights when girls would stumble out, dazed and drugged. Nights when someone inside said, "Don't worry," she signed the paper. But here's the twist. Marcus didn't plan to testify. He didn't come forward willingly. He was forced. Last fall, a woman came forward in New York. Not a celebrity, not a model, just someone who had been at one of the parties. She named Marcus. Said he had escorted her into a black car with tinted windows and handed her off to a man in a red suit. The woman is now missing. That's when the subpoenas started flying. That's when the Department of Justice quietly opened a file titled Operation Nightfall. And that's when Marcus Kane knew he had to speak, or be the next to vanish. The deposition goes further. He names others. Celebrities, politicians, people who built careers on what they saw and stayed silent about. He says there's a ledger, a book hidden in a vault. He says it holds every name, every night, every signature. And here's the worst part. "I never thought I'd say this," Marcus said, "but I think someone died in that room. Maybe more than one. And we all just pretended it didn't happen." That one sentence could bring everything crashing down, because this isn't just about Diddy anymore. It's about an entire network, a closed circle. A silent system that protected power by sacrificing people. And now, for the first time, that silence is cracking. In part 2, you'll hear exactly what Marcus witnessed inside the mansion on the night of the 19th of October, when one of the biggest names in music showed up unannounced, and what he demanded the bodyguards cover up the next morning. Marcus Kane never forgot the night of the 19th of October. Not because it was wild, not because it was loud, but because it was quiet, too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes your skin crawl, like something was about to go terribly wrong. The guest list that evening wasn't public. No press, no paparazzi. Just a handful of ultra VIPs arriving in black SUVs through a rear security gate. Marcus was stationed inside the mansion's eastern wing, the one rarely used except on nights like this. Around 11:23 p.m., he received a coded message through his earpiece. Crimson active, double-check clearance. That meant only one thing: the red door was being opened. He moved to his post, watching as 3 men in suits escorted someone into the hallway. The guest wore sunglasses at night and a red scarf covering part of his face. He walked like a man used to being obeyed. But Marcus recognized him immediately. A music icon, Grammy-winning, Billboard topping, a face that had smiled on every magazine cover from 2005 to 2012. What was he doing here, unannounced? And why was he led into the Red Room without security protocol? Minutes later, a young woman arrived. Marcus didn't know her name. She wasn't on any clearance list. She looked nervous, hesitant, dressed in a tight black dress and clutching her purse with both hands. The same red-suited handler who brought her in turned to Marcus and said, "She's a guest of the guest, no questions." What happened next haunted Marcus ever since. For the next 45 minutes, there were no sounds, no music, just silence behind the red door. Then, suddenly, the lights in the hallway flickered. A power dip, maybe? Or something else. When the door finally opened again, the red-suited man emerged, sweaty, pale, and wide-eyed. He said nothing, simply walked out. But the woman, she never came out. Marcus asked quietly, "Where is she?" The man whispered back, "She left already. Forget you saw her." But Marcus hadn't seen her leave. No one had. And later, when he checked the surveillance logs, there was no footage of her arrival. The cameras had gone dark during the exact time frame she entered. The footage had a gap. 12 minutes, black screen, corrupted file. Marcus had seen this pattern before, but that night it felt different. The next morning, Diddy himself arrived at the mansion. No entourage. No announcement. He was wearing a hoodie, sunglasses, and pacing like a man under pressure. He went straight to the Volta biometric room, hidden behind a false wall near the wine cellar. Only a few people had access. Marcus was one of them. Diddy looked at him and said, "Delete the entry. From last night. All of it. Clean it." Marcus replied, "The footage is already corrupted." Diddy nodded. "Good. Then it never happened." That would have been the end of it. But 3 weeks later, Marcus received a sealed envelope at his apartment. No return address. Inside was a photograph. The woman from that night. Her eyes wide in fear. A timestamp printed at the bottom. The 19th of October. Behind her, barely visible, was a man in a red suit, and someone else half, in shadow, holding a camera. That image had never been taken by mansion security. So who took it? And why send it to Marcus? A second envelope arrived days later. This one contained only a USB drive. No files. Just one short video, less than 6 seconds. But in those 6 seconds, Marcus saw something that made him physically sick. The woman screaming, struggling, a man laughing in the background. Then, darkness. That's when Marcus knew this wasn't just about drugs, or parties, or celebrity secrets. This was something far darker. He tried to warn someone. He tried to talk to the mansion's internal security chief. But 2 days later, that man resigned, moved to Dubai, disappeared. Marcus was alone, until the subpoena arrived. And suddenly, the very secrets he had buried, deep secrets he hoped would stay forgotten, were being dragged into the light. In part 3, we reveal what Marcus says is inside the ledger hidden in the vault, and the reason why federal agents believe this case may expose a nationwide network with ties far beyond Hollywood. They called it the ledger, but Marcus knew it by another name, the insurance. It wasn't digital, no encrypted drives, no cloud backups. It was a physical leather-bound book, wrapped in plastic, and locked in a temperature-controlled safe behind the wine cellar. Only 3 people had ever opened it: Diddy, his legal fixer, and Marcus. And the only reason Marcus was allowed to see inside was because one night, years ago, Diddy handed it to him and said, "If anything ever happens to me, this is my protection." This is what keeps people loyal. Inside the ledger were hundreds of handwritten entries, names, dates, locations, and symbols. There were no full sentences, but the codes were unmistakable once you knew what they meant. A red asterisk meant footage existed. A black dot meant the person had been paid. A gold triangle meant they had returned, and stayed silent. Marcus flipped through the pages. He saw names that shocked him. Politicians, CEOs, former athletes, reality stars, even a judge, all tied to nights, events, or visits to the mansioner to the hotels that Marcus had been ordered to book under false names. He kept everything, Marcus said, because he didn't trust anyone. He didn't blackmail them. He just made sure they knew he could. But one entry stood out. It was marked the 19th of October. No name next to it. Just a symbol Marcus hadn't seen before, 3 black X's. And beside it, the word void. Marcus believes that entry refers to the missing woman, that she wasn't just a guest, that she was a problem, a mistake, and that someone decided she needed to disappear. The FBI apparently agrees. According to internal communications reviewed by a confidential source, Operation Nightfall is now focusing on identification of individual VOID 19, linking that code to at least 2 other missing persons cases from the past decade, both last seen near events tied to Combs Holdings LLC. The deeper investigators dig, the darker it gets. Marcus says there are other vaults. In Miami, in New York, even overseas, all filled with the same type of ledgers. All part of what one former assistant called the archive. A map of influence. A roadmap of silence. And if even half of what Marcus claims is true, then what's being uncovered isn't just a scandal, it's a systemic operation of control. We were all part of it, Marcus admits. The drivers, the guards, the house staff. We didn't ask questions. We took the money. We thought we were untouchable. But that illusion shattered when the subpoenas arrived. When people started disappearing, when the woman vanished, and when Marcus finally realized he was next. That's why he came forward. Not for fame, not for revenge, but because the nightmares wouldn't stop. Because sometimes he'd wake up thinking he heard screaming behind the red door. Because no one else would tell the truth. And because somewhere, out there, he believes that woman or her family is still waiting for answers. As of today, federal agents have confirmed they've recovered one of the ledgers. It's currently in the custody of the Southern District of New York. More are being hunted. Testimonies are being cross-checked. And Diddy? He's gone silent. No public appearances, no statements. Just lawyers, and the growing fear that the empire he built may soon come crashing down one secret at a time. This isn't just a story about power. It's a story about what people do to keep it, what they're willing to hide, and how, eventually, the truth has a way of leaking out, no matter how many locks you put on the door. If you found this story disturbing, eye-opening, or important, don't forget to like, comment, and share your thoughts below. Subscribe for more exclusive breakdowns, and stay tuned because this investigation is far from over.